From Orange County and the campus of Chapman University, this is the Chapman Business Report.
When you think of the preeminent technology companies in the world, Google may be the first name that comes to mind. It is, of course, the lead search engine company in the world. They've got a ridiculously successful advertising platform. In fact, we come to you on their software product for video conversations, Google Hangout. And joining us is also a familiar name, Susan Molinari. You may remember as a multi-term congresswoman from New York, but she is also Google's vice president now for public policy. Welcome, Congresswoman. Thank you for joining us.
Great. It's a delight to be with you. Thank you.
We'll get to the news for our conversation, which is this economic impact report that now Google, I believe, does on an annual basis. But real quick, going back to my setup, how does Google, as a vice president, how does the company see itself? Do you see yourselves as the bellwether of technology, maybe the bellwether company in the country, in the world?
I don't know that Google and our founders look at it as a bellwether company. I think they look at having the capabilities to use innovation to solve problems, and they determine where those problems are and how it fits with the technology that Google has. I mean, that's really sort of the basis of how I think Google sees itself.
The company has gotten so big, and in fact, here at Chapman University, we do a similar study to the one we're going to talk about now, because we're a growing university, and so we like to think that we help local businesses and local nonprofits, and I believe that's the gist for your study, this annual economic impact report in the nation, even by state, to show how small businesses, nonprofits use your product, but maybe also to blunt whatever criticism you might get for being so big.
Well, I think what we try and do is to show the amazing ability of economic activity to increase once you have an online presence, once you advertise against it, once you use, so our economic report only covers, those people who use Google tools, which shows an increase of 18% from 2012 to 2013. So that's great. We're pleased as a business, but we're pleased about what that means to the overall U.S. economy, but also, encouraging people to use all sorts of social media sites like Facebook, like Twitter, in order to reach a larger audience with regard to their business. And, that's mom and pop business, that's brick and mortar, that's not just technology companies.
In fact, we'll get back to the report in a second. You even give out, I think, as part of this report, what you call your eCity Awards. These would be what, for businesses or even cities or states that are the most wired?
The cities that are most wired and have done as much as possible to get themselves wired, to get businesses to understand the viability of their business, of hiring. We know a business that has a web presence grows twice as fast as a business that doesn't in terms of revenue and hiring. So it makes sense for cities to do everything they can to get the word out there to their main street shops, to have an online presence, because we are now, this is e-commerce. It's a global marketplace, and California has a lot of great businesses that can share their wares and their ideas and their dreams if they have an online presence.
Is there a little bit of a flip side to that? I see, for instance, here, we have a downtown here. I come to you from the city of Orange, in Orange County. And I've seen a number of stores, longtime stores, close. They say, but we're still around online, same company. So we're losing some of our brick and mortar in exchange for the ability to do business, thanks to your products and other software firms?
No, I don't think it's in exchange. I think it allows the viability of a company to withstand. I mean, the company, if it didn't have an online presence, probably might have closed even earlier. When you look at the fact that 97% of people shop online, there's really no choice for a business nowadays not to have an online presence. And that doesn't mean, let me clarify to your point of concern, that they always buy online. Oftentimes they're shopping online and then are going to go to purchase in that brick and mortar business, or have their lunch at the restaurant that they looked at the menu, or go get a haircut at the place where they know the hours. It's that kind of information that we're so used to now as a world to have accessible not only at our laptops, but now on our mobile phones. 94% of people do their searches for goods and services on their mobile phones.
Talking about the annual Google Economic Impact Report with Google Vice President for Public Policy, Susan Molinari. Well, we're very provincial here, so how did California, how did Southern California perhaps even Orange County. How did it rank as being most wired and small businesses impacted? No
surprise. California and New York and Texas are three of the top states in terms of being wired and certainly using Google tools. California is up 11% from 2012 to 2013 at about $25.4 billion in economic activity. Again, that's about 285,000 businesses in California using just Google tools. So really great, 11% increase, huge, one of the largest increases. The one thing, though, is even in California, 49% of businesses are not online. That's below the national average, so that's great. But we'd love to see that number get lower.
There's growth to be had still, and I would imagine it's even greater when you go overseas.
There's no doubt about the fact that California is leading the way, but we'd like them to continue to lead the way to get that 49% down.
When we talk about this economic impact, what Google products, we know the familiar ones, and I guess that's what we're mostly talking about.
Right.
What products are they using?
We're talking about AdSense, AdWords, companies that once they get their website, they advertise against it, and we're talking about the free advertising that we give to any nonprofit in the country.
You're such a big, I think Google gets something like 97% of its revenue, so we'd be talking about 97% of billions from advertising. Again, is that replace the traditional, say, network of advertisers that now do their business with Google?
Does it replace it? No, I think it all works in concert. It is the e-commerce world. It is having great small mom and pop shops with a great idea, utilizing all that is before them to reach a wider audience.
As the VP of Public Policy, I'd be remiss if in our last couple of minutes I didn't talk to you about some of the battles you might be facing. Obviously, you spend a lot of time in Washington. On the technology front, what's front burner for Google right now? Would it be net neutrality? I know you have ongoing battles, as all big companies do, with companies like Microsoft about Google size. What's the big battle for Google now in Washington? First on the technology front.
I think we're kind of in a good place. There's always an effort, I think, on behalf of all technology companies to try and make sure that these legislators from around the country understand the limitless possibilities of innovation and creativity, and that really technology is, right now, America's number one export, innovation number one export, and that we want to make sure that when they do pass laws and regulations and oversight, which they have a responsibility to do, that they do it keeping the consequences in mind and making sure that they understand that companies like Google want to work with the U.S. government, and we think when we all work together, we can do amazing things to increase this economic recovery and speed it up.
Sure, but you are a huge international company, and some of your battles have been overseas, specifically on the issue of privacy.
Yes.
Where does that stand?
Well, certainly the company right now is dealing with the right to be forgotten law that came out of the EU that allows people who are not public figures to contact and eradicate their link. Not the articles are there, their link. And so that's taken up, that's new, and Google's trying to figure out and work with our lawyers to figure out how to be in compliance and do it well and do it to the letter of the law. But it is a challenge for Google to arbitrate these decisions. So that's probably something that is taking up a lot of Google's thoughts so that they can comply with the law. It's not an issue in the United States at this point. I don't think it will be because we have such a strong freedom of expression here. So I'm not concerned about that. But, those are issues. We are always concerned about privacy. We're concerned about privacy and security. We spent an awful lot of time and money and people hours making sure that our systems are as secure as is possible. And, every day we make yesterday's security, which is great, even better. So that's a continuous conversation we have with government and a number one priority.
Just a couple of wrap-up questions. You are in a unique position, one of, I'd say, the 5 largest companies in this country. Again, maybe the preeminent technology company. How does Google, how do you as a vice president assess where the economy is now? We don't call it a recovery anymore. We're beyond recovery. How do you assess the U.S. economy?
Well, I think, you know, obviously it changes from day to day when we look at the stock market, the jobs that are coming out. We are creating
that
jobs, not
good,
at a rate.
right.
Yes, but, you know, we never enough in terms of the jobs that need to be created to sustain and increase this recovery. I think when we look, though, at where this nation's going and the percentage increases that we're talking about today, we have great confidence in American products, American workers, American dreamers to move us up and move us fast. And so, you know, I think in general, Google's pretty confident about the future of the economy of the United States.
Last question. I don't know that you can answer this, but I'll ask it anyway. As the leading, I'm not going to ask if you're going to get back in the political arena for another time. As a leading innovator and always coming out with either some fringe products or new mainstream products, and we're always looking in the U.S. technology world, what's the next big thing? What might be the next big thing for Google?
You know, it's hard for me to say. That's not what I do. They do that over at Google X, you know, the place that comes up with driverless cars and Google Glass and wearable technology. I think everybody at Google's really excited about this partnership with Novartis, where we're going to be working on producing a contact lens that will detect glucose in a system so that diabetics don't have to, you know, pierce themselves so many times a day, and they'll have efficient monitoring of glucose that will communicate with, I guess, their smartphones, maybe their wearable technology. Sure. I'm not 100% sure, but, you know, using technology and innovation to solve seemingly insurmountable problems, you know, and that's just one that, you know, we're particularly excited about right now.
We've been talking with Susan Molinari, the former Congresswoman, is the Vice President of Public Policy for Google, about their annual economic impact study. Congresswoman, thank you very much for joining us.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
To catch more of the Chapman Business Report, visit chapman.edu/CBR.